This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Well, hello there and welcome to the latest Liverpool Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm Joe Rimmer, your host today, and I'm joined by three fine gentlemen to talk all about deadline day and Southampton. On the end here is the man who puts the O in Theo Squires. Theo Squires.
You right, Joe?
How are you?
Not too bad. You?
Yeah, dressed down Friday, you're embracing it?
Yeah, always.
Yeah,
always.
Embracing it a little bit too much?
It's just a t-shirt and jeans, it's fine.
Yeah. Verbal warning. Yeah, everyone's listening. This is your verbal warning.
I'd have been fine if we weren't on camera these days.
Yeah, well, we are, so
yeah.
fix up, look sharp, as Dizzy Rascal would say. Here's Dizzy Rascal, you know that one.
Yeah, you know. Boy in the corner.
Bit of grime. Bit of grime. Talking of grime.
Oh, well.
The man who puts ad in Matt Addison. Matt Addison?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you? All right?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Joe. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. And the man who puts full-time Liverpool correspondent both home and away in Paul Gorst. Paul Gorst.
Shouldn't do that again.
Yeah. This is all season.
Might do this whole thing again.
Yeah, I'm good, Joe. How are you?
I'm all right.
Friday afternoon, we're getting there.
Yeah, getting busy for you? Yes,
as usual.
You're not as busy as some of the other full-time colleagues around the country, are you, today?
No. So it would seem. I mean, I think we pretty much expected it, didn't we? No incomings. Doesn't look like there's going to be any outgoings as well at the moment. And I think is it Tuesday? Tuesday? Yeah, it's Tuesday, isn't it? I think that's throwing a little bit of a spanner in the works as well, because maybe one or two were looking to go on loan, something like Krueger and Carroll maybe, and doesn't look like that's going to be the case now. And Jurgen Klopp said it's not like a blanket thing where the young players just go out on loan. He said it's kind of like a horses for courses approach, and some players need a loan move to develop, someone like Ryan Brewster, and others don't, because they kind of learn and training with the first team, someone like Curtis Jones. So it's very much a tailored approach to the loan system from Klopp, and that will show it with what's going to be looking like no one going out the door today.
I was only asking you to say hello.
I know, but I thought you were going to just segue into the first question and then went on the clock.
I never segue that well, but we will sort of segue. I don't. Why do they choose segue as the? It's quite a strange contraption to choose for getting to the next subject.
Easy, yeah, I'd definitely end up on my face on one.
Have you ever been on a Segway?
No.
Good fun. You've really two been on a Segway?
I've never been. No, I'd like to though. Yeah, I would like to try it.
Yeah. Tell us your thoughts. Send us your thoughts in from home on Segways. Right, press conference. That's a neat segue there. On to the press conference. Jurgen Klopp started by ruling out any business ins and outs, and then was very happy about Southampton. Big fan of Southampton, isn't he?
Yeah, eventually a question about Southampton came, didn't it? And it's almost getting to the point now where how long can you go before you're talking about the actual game? Because no one really mentioned West Ham, no one mentioned Southampton. There always seems to be something in the way, because Liverpool are just making everything look a bit routine at the moment, aren't they, and winning every game. So no one really wants to discuss the next game, because you've heard what Jurgen Klopp has to say a dozen times about the next game in every press conference. So eventually the question of Southampton came, and he was full of praise for Danny Ings in particular, and how well Ralph Hasenhüttl has turned things around since that 9-0 defeat to Leicester back in, was it September, October?
I think it was a bit later than that, wasn't it? Was it like November?
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because I remember at the time they were like dead and gone, weren't they? Like they looked doomed, and since then they've been one of the form teams of the league. And
yeah, he was full of praise for them about their intensity and how they've improved. And I think he's a little bit wary. He wanted the fans in there. They need to create a bit of an atmosphere, which, tongue in cheek, maybe a little bit rich if he's going to sack off Tuesday night. But that's a whole different.
So are you? By the way. Let's
but I did
yeah.
put my services forward.
Well, you didn't give me time to even look at the rotor. You were gone, taking your friend's kids to them.
Well, I'm going to respect the Premier League's mid-season break by not being around on Tuesday. Me and Jurgen are off to Dubai. But yeah, he was full of praise for Southampton. And I think he knows it's going to be a tough game, especially with one of the Premier League's informed strikers in Danny Ings, who he said he was so thrilled for. Everyone at Melwood was so happy to see him doing well at Southampton. Obviously had those two horrendous knee injuries at Liverpool, didn't he? So now he's moved on and thriving.
Yeah, big fan of Danny Ings. But first, let's just get deadline day out the way. Liverpool don't do much business at all on deadline day nowadays, Theo. They're probably involved in the most famous deadline day. Would you say it's the most famous deadline day since it came in January, I think.
The January one, 2011,
yeah. But nowadays, not much business at all. Theo, what do you think that says about Liverpool and the way they're run currently? When you look at clubs like Man United looking for Josh King today, Chelsea scrambling around, pretty much all their sort of traditional rivals looking to do business, aren't they?
It tells you that they've learnt their lesson because, quite frankly, 2011 they got burnt, didn't they? They didn't see a Fernando Torres departure really happening, or if they did, they let it catch them out a bit, and then just went and spent the money on Andy Carroll. That would have been fine if Andy Carroll had been a success. We all know how that one ended up. And whilst Luis Suarez was announced on the same day, that one I think had been rumbling a little while, and it was just they wanted that photo opportunity of the two of them together. So Liverpool have definitely learnt their lesson from don't do your business late. And even now, they don't even do the business in January unless something comes up. Like Virgil van Dijk would have been a summer signing if they hadn't been a bit naughty behind the scenes. Minamino, we already know that's only happened because it was such a good deal. Jurgen Klopp is so organised, and it's right the way through the club with Michael Edwards and the whole setup. And it's probably a big reason why they're top of the Premier League so comfortably, because they're so professionally run these days. As you look at Manchester United, they're being linked to, this week alone, I think I've seen Carlos Teve's been linked with going back to him. Danny Ings has been linked with them today. Obviously, you've said Josh King, just all the Rondon, Slimani. You can just go through all these mad names and you go, what the hell are they doing being linked with Manchester United? I know they're a bit rubbish these days, but they're bigger than that, and to leave it to the deadline day and they've still not sorted, when they weren't sorted in the summer as well when Lukaku went. Liverpool fans can be very grateful that they're not in that position anymore. But
it's funny, isn't it, Matt, because we've seen so many times when Liverpool have decided against doing business, people getting very frustrated. We're all happy now for them to do no business today, but there's been so many deadline days of the past that, I've been sitting here working and you just reading fan comments coming in saying Liverpool needs to do this, they need to do that, why aren't they doing anything? But it's that relaxed nature towards it. You look at Man United now and the way they're scrambling around and it looks frantic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I've seen loads of comments. As you said, it used to be Liverpool, today it's Manchester United. Yeah. For weeks now it's been Bruno Fernandes, and they've finally got that done, and there's been one or two others that have obviously been linked, and it just shows where Liverpool are at, that not only is the club relaxed, the fans are relaxed, everyone around the club is just content with what they've got, and that's certainly not always been the case. Was it Yeven Konoplyanka, whatever year that was a
really well saying that right first.
Yeah. Scrambling around the Ukraine.
Yeah, and it was just one that never happened, and I think he ended up in Sevilla, somewhere like that, and didn't really go on to do a great deal. So
West Ham, no?
No.
Isn't it?
No, that's Yarmolenko, isn't it?
Yarmolenko. All the same, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I can't pronounce any of them.
But yeah, it just goes to show that there's not always value to be found in January, and Liverpool are far too sensible to be wasting money these days.
Definitely. Well, I want to ask you, before we move on completely from deadline day, I was looking at all the January deals before, famously forgot one, which Theo pointed out.
Who was it?
It's a big fella, plays at the back.
Oh, the number 4.
Costs quite a bit of money, and he's all right as well. But yeah, your top 3 January deals off the top of your head. Not so much maybe how good they are, but when they signed, how pleased you were.
Oh, okay, that's a different question. Van Dijk, number 1, because I think everyone knew that was the Achilles heel that was just addressed virtually overnight, wasn't it? And it was the biggest signing in the club's history, and it was just such a big statement to get excited about. The return of Robbie Fowler.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I knew you'd say that. That's why I came to you first.
Loved Fowler growing up. Was made up when he came back. And Daniel Sturridge.
Yeah.
Because I always thought he was a decent player who had a lot more to give. And I thought when Liverpool got him, I thought Brendan Rodgers gets hold of him, he can be someone, and so approved. And it wasn't for those injuries, you could be talking about one of Liverpool's greats. So probably those 3 off the top of my head.
Go on, Theo.
Doing excitement, rather than talent.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. The feeling that you felt at the time.
Number 1, Robbie Fowler.
Yeah.
Just because it was so long ago, you didn't get the hype and the build-up.
Yeah.
So being down south at the time, I didn't know it was happening. I remember turning up for football training after it had done. My mates.
You used to train?
Yeah. My mates were just so excited. Oh, he's in the news. Robbie Fowler's back. I was like, nah, pulling my leg here because you just didn't see it coming.
They did have. Hang on, you make it out like this was like the early 1900s, and you got.
You'd have heard more whispers up here than I would have down south.
Maybe so, yeah.
Little
But the
Cambridgeshire.
Sky Sports News did exist back then.
Apparently, I mustn't have had it on at the time.
No.
Don't think we had Sky back then, to be fair. Number 2, number 3, Daniel Sturridge. Just because I remember he was linked in the summer. He's like, that would be a decent signing. Didn't happen, and then it did. And then Luis Suarez, because we'd all seen him at the World Cup. All seen him at the World Cup. He's like, that's what Liverpool need. All dreaming of that partnership with Fernando Torres that ultimately never happened. But yeah, that was an exciting one.
Matt?
Yeah, Luis Suarez is the one that stood out for me straight away, and obviously Van Dijk as well. Coutinho was a January signing as well, wasn't he? I mean, wasn't obviously a big name to begin with, but he was someone that I'd seen a little bit about, and as soon as you see him play, he wasn't quite at the world-class level straight away, but you could just see straight away that there was a player, that's the type of player that I like, that sort of technical quality player like that, someone who's just that good on the ball, you can just give it them in any area, and he's just brilliant to watch.
A Brazilian attacker with Eno in the name is always going to excite any fan, aren't he?
No one's saying, look, I've got to hold my hands up, Andy Carroll. I thought Liverpool would sign the next year. I honestly thought this guy, absolute bullet of a shot with his left foot, great in the air. At the time, I thought him and Suarez were bully teams. He just looked like a powerhouse. And I remember exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing. I was backpacking in Australia, was in a hostel, got up for breakfast, and people were on their phones. Someone said, this Liverpool signed Andy Carroll for 35 million. And apart from being very, very shocked that they'd spent 35 million on Andy Carroll, there was a Newcastle fan in our hostel, and he said, a few swear words, and said, why would he go to Liverpool? You haven't even got as big a stadium as we have. And I remember just thinking that was hilarious. There you go. I want to shoehorn that story in.
I was quite excited about the arrival of Carroll. He had a storming first half of the season, hadn't he? Liverpool found it to the cost when he went up to St James's Park, and I remember thinking he's going to be great, but he turned up, he was unfit to begin with, he was injured, wasn't he, until the March, and just never really got going, but we'll always have that semi-final header.
Yeah, we will. Right, Danny Ings is on his way back tomorrow. Klopp had a lot to say about him, Gorsty. He seems like one of the most popular former players, I think, in terms of within the club that Liverpool have ever had. I mean, Klopp couldn't have been more glowing in his praise for him, could he? Yeah,
well, he said Ings, basically because he was out for so long, he built up such a good relationship with the staff at Melwood, as opposed to, not so much didn't get on with his teammates, far from it, but because he was always working with the coaching staff there, trying to get back to fitness, everyone kind of saw how hard he was working and how much of a nice guy he is. And he said everyone is absolutely delighted for him to see him doing so well. And Klopp said he still thinks of him as one of his own, doesn't he? And I thought that was a nice little line. He just said as long as he doesn't do anything tomorrow, we'll wish him all the best. And I think Liverpool fans are largely in the same bracket. I don't think, seeing him move to Southampton for Liverpool got a decent fee for him in fairness, and seeing him now, he's only a couple behind Vardy, isn't he, in the top scorer stakes? I think he might be on 14, which is some return when you think Southampton was struggling for so long. He seems to be the main man there now, and good luck to him because everyone speaks so positively about him. And Klopp was full of praise for him. Theo, do you think had luck been a bit kinder to Danny Ings? Do you think he could have been perhaps in this Origi role and had scored a couple of goals for Liverpool on the road to big European finals? Yeah, I'd like to think so, because he always did seem like the sort of striker that was perfect for Jurgen Klopp. He's got the right attitude, the right pressing style, and when you even think to when he first did the injury in Klopp's the very first training session, wasn't it? In that season when Sturridge was struggling, he was that perfect fit, because Benteke wasn't, Firmino was still finding his feet. It could have been his opportunity, and it just never really worked out for him. But he's obviously always had the ability to score goals. I don't think I've ever seen a player so passionate to score when he got his goal at West Brom, his first goal when he'd come back. Yeah. And we'd seen him come so close in the past. Divock Origi, he could have easily gone to, Wolves? And we've seen him go close a few times to leaving the club. That could have easily happened, and then Danny Ings could have stayed. He could have had the opportunity, but we'll never know. I don't think anyone's going to swap Origi's role for what he has done in the past 6 months, and it's just great to see Danny Ings going off and proving his ability elsewhere. Chances are Origi might have to do that in a year's time, 18 months' time, if he decides he wants to start playing football, but it just shows how good you have to be to get into the Liverpool starting 11
or how good your attitude has to be to have that talent and be happy to sit behind the current front three.
How much of a threat do you think he is tomorrow, Matt?
I think he's a big threat. I think the big thing for him is that he's been able to stay fit, and he's sort of the big fish in the small pond, if you like, at Southampton, where everything goes through him. He knows that the responsibility for keeping them up is on his shoulders, and I think he's really stepped up this season. And if Southampton are to get an unlikely point or even 3 points off Liverpool, he's going to be crucial. Going into it, he's the one that you sort of think they've got a lot of good players. They've not necessarily got a lot of goal scorers, and I think he's the one that one chance, one goal, and that could be it for them.
Ralph Hasenhüttl, Klopp said we're not close, but we work together in the same league. Was huge in his praise of him as well. Anyone wouldn't have been surprised if he'd been sacked after that 9-0 defeat. He's done a magnificent job to turn things around at Southampton, Paul. Is he one of the most likeable? I mean, his name literally translates to Ralph Rabbit Hutch, which is it's just wonderful in every way, isn't it? I mean, I wish my surname was Rabbit Hutch. But is he one of the most likeable managers in the Premier League?
He seems to be, doesn't he?
I'm asking all the big questions today.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem to be someone who courts controversy or says he tries to get on the wind up or anything like that. It just seems like a good coach, doesn't he? And it would have been so easy for Southampton just to have got rid of him when they got beat 9-0 and just begin a search for another manager. And a couple of years down the line, you think, remember that Hasenhüttl at Southampton, whatever happened to him? But he stuck with him, and he's shown why he's so highly rated, coming from obviously the Bundesliga. He's the Alpine Klopp, as he's sometimes referred to, and maybe you can see similarities in the way Southampton play to Klopp's obviously famously intense pressing game. Does seem to be, well, he's obviously found his feet now at Southampton, and they're getting the results that he seems to have worked since that 9-0 defeat. I mean, 9-0 is such a hammering, isn't it? Is it the record in the Premier League?
Joint record, yeah.
Yeah. And since that game, they've been fantastic. I think a week later they went to City and went ahead, and I think they might have lost, but narrowly lost, and they were so unfortunate.
They did, they were ahead.
They had them a couple of times in a row, didn't they? It was the League Cup as well, was it?
Yeah.
So basically, since that defeat, they've basically transformed it, and they will be a threat tomorrow, yeah, definitely, especially with someone like Ings up top who only needs half a chance. Got so many different types of finishes in his locker, left foot, right foot. So Liverpool will have to be wary.
Klopp hinted at it, Theo, that Liverpool like teams that play like Southampton do. They play almost in a bit of a mini Liverpool style. They press high up the pitch, and Klopp did hint that that's the sort of thing that plays into their hands. Do you think there will be space for Liverpool tomorrow, or do you think that's a dangerous prospect?
You'd like to think so, but that's because this Liverpool team are capable of beating anyone and just controlling games. They don't even have to turn up and be at the best. They can control a game, as we saw in midweek against West Ham. Southampton, though, they are in good form at the moment. I think, did they beat Spurs? Did they beat Chelsea or something like that? Yeah. They're doing well against the big teams. They got confidence at the moment. I think it's helped that they've changed the goalkeeper. So you remember, I think Alex McCarthy, who's been linked with Liverpool a bit in the past, he's got in the sticks, and now he's getting clean sheets every other week, it seems. And it seems to have bred confidence through the whole team. And while I'm not going to say comparing to Alisson or anything, Liverpool know how much difference it has when you've got a keeper you can rely on and have that confidence in. So, yeah, Liverpool will want to play against this team that leave that space behind them, because it doesn't matter how good they are. Liverpool know if they get in behind the defence, they're scoring. Like we've seen it against so many teams in the past, no matter what the ability. Most famous one's Roma, the 5-2. So Southampton play like that. It should go into Liverpool's hands. But then with these sorts of sides, there's always that now so that they can hang on, this is Liverpool. They are the best team on the planet at the moment. We're going to have to shut up shop a bit and just lump it long to Danny Ings, play things a bit differently.
West Ham tried to shut up shop on Wednesday night. Liverpool hit them twice, scored twice, got the win. 3 performances I wanted to pick out. Matt, I'll ask you about Joe Gomez first, who I think they've kept 8 clean sheets in the last 11 games. Am I right saying that?
Yes. They've only conceded the one, haven't they, against Wolves since Richarlison in the derby on December the 4th. Gomez wasn't playing in that one.
He's come back in. He's been superb, Matt. How pleased are you to see how good Gomez, and is he out of those 3 the best option?
He's definitely the best option out of the 3 centre backs to go with Van Dijk, purely because of his age. I think for me, he's someone that, he's only 22. He's still, he's he's probably at a similar level now to what Matic was towards the back end of last season. So there's not a huge amount in terms of the two abilities between those two players. I think there's a bit of a drop off with Lovren, but not a massive amount. But when you consider his age, his consistency, the leadership that he showed, against West Ham, but in all of the recent matches really, how good he is on the ball as well. And as Klopp said today about his pace, he allows Liverpool to play exactly the way that they want to play with that high line. If something gets past him or goes over the top, he either heads it clear straight away, or he can recover, and he can do that. And when you've got two players, obviously Van Dijk's quick himself, and nothing much gets past him. When you've got both of those players together, it just gives the rest of the team that complete confidence. And whereas in other positions on the pitch, you might say, well, we've got two really good ones, let's mix it up a bit, like they do in midfield. I think in defence, you've just got to be settled and just let Gomez continue, and hopefully he can stay injury-free for a little bit longer than what he maybe has done in the past.
I'm going to say it, if he's been fit the whole of last season, Liverpool win the league. Just the fact that they didn't concede any goals in the first half of last season, and they're doing the exact same thing now. And granted, Joel Matip was superb. He's a big reason why they won the Champions League. There was a drop-off, and you think at the time, it's just form. Liverpool can't go this long without conceding goals and having that many clean sheets. But for him to come back in, find his feet, and then just pick up where they left off last Christmas and just do it again, that shows how good he is. It isn't just about playing next to Van Dijk. And when you think, it was only a point, wasn't it, in between it? He goes in and he gets a clean sheet or an extra point along the way somewhere that makes the difference.
Well, big claim from Theo.
Yeah.
Would you go along with that?
It's not a bad shout. Liverpool have conceded just 8 goals in 35 Premier League appearances with Gomez in the team. And when you think three more games, and that's an entire season, I think, is it Chelsea with the best Premier League record defensively?
Yeah.
2006, I think it might be
16 goals?
16, that's what I thought. So that's an incredible stat. Liverpool could feasibly go the next 3 games without conceding to take that up to a full season's worth of games. You've only shipped 8 goals. I think Alisson's got more clean sheets now than anyone else in the Premier League.
Yeah.
He's got more clean sheets than goals conceded. It's just Liverpool's just so strong defensively, and it's coming at a time when you were questioning when you're early in the season, not so much questioning them thinking that they're having shockers at the back, but they just weren't keeping clean sheets, and teams are getting the odd chance and sticking it away, but that just isn't happening anymore. And it's so solid at the back, and that's where everything else is built on. So if Liverpool do have a bit of an off day up front, they still know that they only need to stick one of them away, and they're probably still going to win the game.
Alisson wasn't one of the 3 players I want to talk about, but just quickly, I mean, there isn't too much to say about him, but he is just phenomenal, isn't he? I mean, the saves he made on Wednesday night.
Declan Rice, yeah. Goalkeepers are judged on keeping the concentration, aren't they? And the top goalkeepers, they don't always have things to do. A keeper can look good if he's had shots on him for 90 minutes and he's tipped 3 or 4 around the post, but the elite ones are the ones that come up with the big saves when they've had nothing to do for the rest of the game. And I thought Wednesday night was a perfect example of that, with Rice's header, and I think Fornals had another chance.
Yeah.
So they could have easily have gone in, and you wouldn't really have blamed Alisson for them going in, but he's kept both of them out, and he's just so assured. He doesn't really make Hollywood saves, as you might call them. They're just good saves because he's always in the right positions, and he's had just as big an impact as Van Dijk at the back, I think.
The best praise you can give him is you look at Chelsea. Kepa came in a couple of weeks after him to take that mantle of the most expensive keeper, and he looks pretty bad, let's be honest.
We don't talk about him, do we? I mean, we just don't. You don't talk about Kepa as... I think if you said to someone, I know this sounds a bit strange, but if you said to someone who's the world's most expensive goalkeeper, people would just go Alisson because they just think of him as the best. And Kepa's just been...
Just makes mistakes.
Yeah.
He's very sloppy. Like, you see goals and you think, how's that gone in? You shouldn't be at a club like Chelsea. That size, you shouldn't be the most expensive goalkeeper on the planet. It just makes you appreciate how lucky Liverpool have got getting Alisson when for so long they've had keepers that have made those mistakes. Yeah.
One of the other players I want to talk about, Matt, was Jordan Henderson, who is keeping Fabinho at the team for the moment. And I do wonder, at what point does Fabinho get back in the team? Do you think that he should get back in the team? Or is it a case of Henderson doing that role so well that he doesn't get moved?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think Henderson's been playing the last few weeks as well as he's ever been playing, realistically. So finding a place for Fabinho to come back in is quite difficult. I think it might just be a case of there's a little winter break coming up maybe Fabinho does a little bit of extra work to get his fitness back to where it was before, and maybe they go again after that. But I'd be quite happy either way, to be honest. I think
it's not a bad problem to have, is it?
No, exactly. I mean, if you've got two top quality players in one position, that's okay. I'd be quite happy to see Henderson carry on where he is, but equally, Fabinho is just as good in that position, and Henderson offers maybe a little bit more than one or two of the other options further forward. So, yeah, like you say, it's not a bad problem.
I say he has to come back in. You have to have Fabinho back in after the winter break, and I'm completely for him not being back in yet, because Liverpool have got this momentum at the moment, and it is getting to the break before you go again. But it's more about, if you've got Henderson on the right-hand side, it's that extra protection for Trent. It lets Trent get further forward, and he is Liverpool's most dangerous attacking threat, really, when you think about where the goals come from. So having Fabinho in that team unleashes Henderson, and therefore it unleashes Trent.
But is Henderson's moving back into that position not contributed, along with Gomez and Alisson, of course, to Liverpool being a little bit more solid, though?
Potentially, but then I think they've had to be a bit more protective. They've realised how good Fabinho was. They almost took him for granted, because it was a case of, he's got it covered, we can all just bomb forward. And now when Henderson's going back in that role, he isn't Fabinho, he isn't that natural defensive player. So Liverpool have had to be a bit cleverer on the ball defensively, have that extra protection, and just take it carefully. Now, when you think we're in this stage of the season, we're about to hit that stage of the season where Liverpool can just go for it, wrap the league up as quickly as possible, then it will be Fabinho, protect, rest of the team just carry on, do your job, win the games.
Fair enough. Okay, staying in midfield, Gorsty. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain scored a great goal. Thought it was a really good goal on Wednesday evening. Does he get a run of games for you now?
Yeah, probably. Naby Keita came back, didn't he, for his first appearance of the season. But I think Klopp always talks about rhythm, and players need rhythm, and you're looking at it and you're thinking, where's Fabinho going to get it? Because if he plays tomorrow with Southampton, he's then got 2 weeks off before Norwich. I'd be likely to bring Fabinho in for that Norwich game, and hopefully he'll be okay moving into Atletico Madrid. But with Oxlade-Chamberlain, he's got more of a goal threat than anyone else in that midfield, hasn't he? I think he's Liverpool's 3rd top scorer. Maybe
6 for the season, I think, in all comp.
4th top scorer, behind the usual front 3. Might be similar numbers to Origi, but
Van Dijk maybe.
Yeah,
be up there.
Yeah. So I think so. I mean, we had a chance to chat to him after the game on Wednesday night, and he was saying how, he mentioned it like 3 or 4 times actually, how disappointed he was with his own performance, and he was very critical, and thought he'd maybe been a little bit harsh on himself, but I don't think he's at the level he was before that injury. I think that was probably his best form of his career, if we're being honest, playing in the position he's always wanted to play. But I think at the moment he's in that role, isn't he? And that is where he wants to play. It's where he can break beyond the defence and score goals like we've seen the other night. So I think at the moment I don't see any real harm in leaving him in there and seeing what else he can do. Okay,
all right. Well, let's pick our teams. Let's put our money where our mouths are and pick our teams. So Gorsty, go first. Alisson obviously in goal. Back 4, same as you were.
Yeah. Not too many options.
No one's arguing. No one's throwing Klein in there.
Definitely
not. Straight back into straight back into
just as always.
Lovren and Matic.
Yeah. No changes there. All right, midfield then. This is where it gets interesting. Theo, you go first.
It's going to be the same 3.
Same 3.
Henderson, Gini, Ox.
Oxlade-Chamberlain.
I think there's probably an argument for Keita, just because of the game. I think is going to be quite frenetic, quite intense, and just the way that Southampton play. But at the same time, would you throw him back in with that being the case? I know he is suited to it, but I think definitely Henderson, Wijnaldum, and then it's a case of Keita or Chamberlain.
Make a choice.
So
Lallana's an option as well. Klopp said that today.
Who?
Lallana.
Potentially an option as well, yeah.
Today,
I'm going to go Keita.
Going Keita?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going Keita.
Fair enough, yeah. I'm going to go with Theo. I'm sticking with it. I think Keita was in great form before that injury, but he hasn't really played, as he's had 15 minutes in a month. So I'm going to stick with Oxlade-Chamberlain.
I think I'm going to go the same as you and Theo.
It's his former club as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Goal there.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Front 3 then. Origi staying in there for you, or Minamino? What do you reckon?
I think Origi has to stay in there by virtue of him just being the most similar to Mane, really. A bit of pace on the left. I think Minamino hasn't quite got that speed and still adjusting to the Premier League, isn't he? So Origi by default almost, because I don't think he's been great the last couple of games.
Yeah, Origi, just because Minamino needs time to settle. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it would be too much of a risk to put Minamino in straight away. I think he's just got to keep coming off the bench and hopefully he'll acclimatise sooner rather than later.
I'd be half tempted to put Minamino in, but I think that Klopp has played him in a central position. Sort of tells you what you need to know about where he sees him right now. I don't think he would throw him in on the left.
Yeah, you'd have to move Firmino, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be a fan of that.
The only way is if you like do a 4-2-3-1 and then you have like Chamberlain on the left.
That's
He's
true.
not as good there either.
No. All right. Well, I think we're all in agreement then on the front three.
not
Origi
broke.
stays.
Don't think so.
Okay. So some score predictions, please. Theo, you first.
3-0.
3-0. Yeah.
2-1.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 2-1 with you.
I think Liverpool will shut them out. I think that Danny Ings only needs a half a chance, but I don't think he'll even get that. I think Liverpool win quite comfortably. 2-0.
2-0. All right. There you have it. For positive people.
22 points clear if they win.
22 points clear. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? How are you? You're 31 as well, aren't you? 32.
32. Yeah.
Have you ever known anything like this?
No, I don't ever remember.
Uncharted territory for
I
us.
remember Liverpool being 30 points off Chelsea in 2005
Yeah.
and being like, wow, that's incredible. What
Yeah.
a great season they've had and what a poor season Liverpool have had. But 22 points clear of second place.
30 points clear of Chelsea in fourth, aren't they?
Yeah.
35 of
Liverpool
United.
30 points behind the Invincibles as well. I think that got you Champions League. It's going to be more than that this year.
They've got more than
It's dizzying.
more than double points of Manchester United, who are fifth. 30 points clear of the team who are fourth. The 40 points clear of Everton. It's incredible.
So then when you weigh it up against like Liverpool's previous seasons, like think of how poor they were in say 11-12, and that was already eclipsed that by a mile, and you've got what, a third of the season left over that.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp's first season they finished on 60 and they're already on 70.
Dizzying heights. Go and have a sit down. You'll need one. We'll be back on Monday when hopefully we'll be discussing Liverpool being 22 points clear and looking ahead to the Shrewsbury game, which Gorsty can't even bother turning up to. See you then. Bye bye.